guys, today we're gonna be designing a clay trinket dish. We're gonna start by sketching out the shape of our dish. I would like mine to be a rectangle. Now I'm going to use these different techniques to fill that rectangle with coil. A coil is just kind of a fancy art way to say a worm of clay. So I'm just gonna take my clay and I'm gonna roll it, and it's okay if you do this part on the table. I want to roll it so it's about as thick as my finger. As you're creating your coils, you want them to be about the same thickness. You don't want some thin and some thick. Now I think I'm going to do the spiral design. So what I do is I take my piece of clay and I curl it up, and then I'm gonna break it off and just put it where I want the spirals to go. I think I'll do another one in each corner to make it symmetrical. Looks like I'm gonna run out of clay here, so I'll have to roll another coil. So again, as I'm doing this, it's important that they are all the same size. So I'm using my finger as a guide because I always have my finger handy, and it doesn't usually change size in just a couple minutes. Again, if it gets on the table, it's not the end of the world. We can wash the table. What you don't want to do is build on the table because your clay can stick to the table. I actually don't really care if the tables get dirty. I worry that you might ruin your beautiful piece of art. Now the clay we're using today is made out of dirt and water. How weird is that? All clay is made out of dirt and water. The process that we follow when we use the clay is that we build while the clay is wet. I think now I'm going to do some arches. Then the clay goes into the kiln. The kiln is a super hot oven. It gets to be 2,000, yeah, you heard me, 2,000 degrees. When the clay comes out of the kiln, it will look white. Right now it looks gray. When it comes out of the kiln, it will look white, and it will be called bisque fired. Clay that comes out of the kiln for the first time is called bisque fired. After you bisque fire clay, then you glaze it. Glazing is using a type of paint that's almost like liquid glass. You put it all over your bisque fired piece, and then I put it back into the kiln. When I put it back into the kiln, that liquid glass melts and it covers your piece. And when it comes out, your clay will look almost glass-like and super shiny. Okay, now I think I'm going to make a couple hearts. So I'm breaking this off. I'm making a V, and then I'm just pinching in at the top. If my clay cracks, all I need to do is add a little bit of water and smooth it. Now, the part that you're looking at right now is actually what's going to be the back of this piece. The part that's touching the paper, that's going to be the front. How weird is that? We're going to smooth this. That heart needs to be a little smaller. We're gonna smooth this on the back side, and then the top side where you can still see the coils will be the front. Now I'm just gonna take some coils and some dots, and I'm gonna fill every empty space. So right here I have an empty space. I'm breaking a coil and just kind of putting it in to fill. You want this to be packed really tightly. I'm gonna add one here. And then I have this weird amount of space. I'm gonna add a little dot to each one of those. So a little dot here, and a little dot there. Then I need some more coils. I like to start by rolling the coil in my hand, and then I move to the table. I'm gonna fill this area with just some lines. Maybe I'll make little vertical lines like that. So all I'm doing is laying the clay and just kind of pinching it off. Then I'm gonna add a couple of dots just where I see openings. I see a little opening here, so I'm just gonna smush a little piece of clay in there for a dot. I see a little opening right there. I have a little opening here, a little opening here. Just making sure that this is totally full of coils. The last step in the building process is to make one long coil that goes all the way around. This is like a border, and it's what's going to make this all stick together when it goes into the kiln. And I'm gonna kind of see, is that big enough? No, it's not, and I'm gonna keep rolling. If you need to add more clay to it, that's fine. You can do that. It's also okay to ask me for help with this step. I can roll coils a lot quicker than most people can just because I've done it a lot longer, right? Usually when you practice things more, you get faster. And I'm kind of pressing it so it stays within that shape that I've made for it. And here it meets. And I'm gonna take it off. All right. Now comes the part where we're going to smooth the back. I told you that this is the back. I'm using my finger and I'm just gently rubbing the clay together. It looks like you're undoing all that hard work you did, but really you're securing it so it doesn't break when it goes into the kiln. The other side will still show all that beautiful hard work you did. This is the back, the bottom. Sometimes I'll dip my finger into water if I have any cracks. The thing with water is that your clay, we learned, is actually made out of dirt with a little bit of water. But what happens if you have dirt and you put too much water in? Do you guys know? Yeah, mud happens, right? It'll turn into mud. And you obviously don't want your beautiful tray here to turn into a big piece of mud. That would be a super sad story. So a little bit of water. If your clay starts to get shiny and gets really muddy, that's your clay telling you to quit it. All right, when you're done with this step, go ahead and raise your hand and I'll come by and help you. And you can see I take it and pull it off, and I have this gorgeous tray I made. Now I'm going to make little feet for my tray. I'm gonna flip it back over. Now I know what it looks like. And I'm gonna roll 4 balls that are the same size. So if I get a piece of clay, I'd want to divide it into quarters. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, here's 1 ball. Now I need to do something called scoring and slipping. That just means scratch your clay and get it wet. I like to use a toothbrush because it does both things at once. I'm going to go to one side and I'm going to put one of these feet on, and I'm applying some pressure. This is like the glue for clay. If you stick 2 pieces of paper together and you say, I hope they stick, will they stick? No, of course not. And if you just set clay on top of clay and say, I hope it sticks, that's the exact same thing. You need to add the glue for clay. And the glue for clay is scoring and slipping. So the score is the scratch and the slip is the water. And you do it to both sides. It's like Velcro. Now I'm gonna take my finger and I'm just gently kind of blending the clay where the foot and the tray meet. So I'm blending where the foot and the tray meet. Blending. And blending. All right. Now when I stand it up, it has a little bit of a slope to it. All right, it's all done. It's a really cool coil pot. You can see all those beautiful coil pieces that I made, but the back is secure and flat. Great work.